Hey guys, how have you been? Um, Happy Tuesday. I hope you're all doing well. I was doing my own journal work this morning, and the Strength card came out. I love this is Tarot of Mystical Moments. I think I'm saying it right. Damn, I should remember the name. um, and the Strength card came out, and there are so many reasons that I love the Strength card. Obviously, the sun is associated with Leo season. The Strength card is definitely also associated with Leo season. And there's this energy about how the time portal that we're in just strikes me with this card. You know, we are in the time portal, the energetic portal of, you know, the you could still actually call it the Lion's Gate, you know, the Sirius star energy and the kind of, as I've explained before, sort of the high, holy, exalted days of the energy of the sun. We're still definitely in that window because, to be honest, again, let's remember 8-8 is just a numerological portal, and you actually mark that alignment of, you know, the sun, Orion's constellation, Sirius star by the movements in the actual sky, right? So anyway, we're still very much in the thick of this energy. And I love this card. I did not plan to open like going on about this card, but such as it is, what I think is beautiful is that it makes me think so much of Sekhmet. I do have her tattooed on me to honor my own Leo rising, but it's very interesting. You notice she has a tail and she has ears, but she's not necessarily depicted to look like a lion. She just looks very feline. And so, of course, out of my spirit, this brings, you know, Sekhmet, and if you resonate as a starseed, it's very like Lyrian, or you may say Lyran energy, and, you know, such as the Lion's Gate portal, and all of the things that go along with the stories about the very kind of auspicious, high celebrated time. And it's really beautiful for literally so many reasons. And of course, we're having a lovely new moon in Leo tomorrow, which will be Wednesday. If you would like to, I have a monthly full moon group that I do group and one-on-one work with. But if I don't, actually, I just open book new moon. So you're more than welcome to visit my website and figure out how to book with me there. I really don't, just as a side note, like I don't do, hey, purchase this, toss it in your shopping cart and let's get connected. I'm very ergonomic about it. You know what I mean? So you basically just email me. And if you go to a link where I explain my tarot and astrology services, you basically just click the link and I will get an email. I do use PayPal to invoice everything, but, you know, I like to interact. I like to, I guess you would say, have a touch point with the energy that I'm kind of contracting with to tap into. So anyway, it's a really beautiful time to set new intentions, and not just in a new moon way, but like it's harvest season. You know, if you're following a more pagan earth-based, a more Celtic, a more, could you say maybe Gaelic? I mean, you could plug in a lot of terms there. If you're following something that flows more like the wheel of the year, it's a very beautiful time of bringing in the first harvest. And so I love that. But then also, if you are connected with, you know, the Egyptian and the even pre-Egyptian, you could say Sumerian stories and related to Venus, that's one thing I wanted to hop on and be like, you guys, you know, Venus, can we see her? I don't think we can quite visually see Venus as rising as the morning star. Is it 6, 7, 8? I think it's maybe you might be able to see her already. I'm sorry. I'm not normally aspecting with dates. I'm looking at like charts of movements. I'm sorry, guys. I had to pause you really quick. I had an animal interruption. But oh yeah. So it's also this very beautiful time in August. Honestly, Leo season, August. The portals related to the Sirius star and the movements of Venus. Makes August a insanely magical time. And again, let's reframe this in a harvest setting, right? If you were out, whether you're, nomadic, whether you were agriculturally based or whatever the case may have been, right? You were thinking, this is really the last big juice I am going to get from the sun, from the earth, bestowing its fruits from my labors. And so on the one hand, we're so close to Virgo season, and that's definitely the energy of let's get the cans, let's get the jars, let's check off the list, let's look at our monies, let's look at our investment. You can kind of set that up any way you want, but you're also in this beautiful in-between that's like, I'm feeling the waning of the brightness of the sun. I can see it a little more. I can feel it. You may have, depending upon where you live, of course, already seen 1 or 2 leaves. Don't flip out and snort pumpkin spice. No, I'm just playing. I love pumpkin spice. Like, give me the cinnamon. I will put cinnamon in anything. Anyway, I can't stand when y'all hate on people. Let people enjoy something. I don't even care about, who cares how many candles I want to light up. If I don't, I'll bathe in pumpkin spice. I don't give a fuck. And you'll probably think I smell good. So sit down. Sit down. My brain was like, be humble, sit down. Anyway, let me stay focused. I really try to curtail. When I do one-on-one work, I really do, sorry, I really do. I forgot to turn the notifications off on my phone. I channel a lot through songs because music is such a palpable stream of energy frequency to me. Really is to all of us. A lot of us are just more disconnected from the spiritual aspects of the messages. But anyway, I try to dial that down when I check in with you guys collectively because it's really more informational and just kind of touching base with you guys. Anyway, so it's just really a beautiful time because it is kind of like the last gas. It's the last, I don't know, my brain was like, burr, 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 but again, that's Leo, is very regal. Listen, what I'm going to do is, I know I ain't done all this work to rebirth this Stargate and these energetic portals through my bright, shining heart chakra to not show up. So it's kind of like, hey, give it all you got type of season. And it's very, because if you were kind of out, you had like X amount of time to still work and like, okay, I can still get this out of my garden. I can get this, but you're also kind of switching to canning mode and you're doing all these things, right? Before you hit Virgo season and then just go straight squirrel and you're just like trying to hoard all the nuts and prepare for winter, right? Because by the time you move through the second harvest and to the end of the harvest, you're really just trying to batten down the hatches and be like, let's make sure we're ready for winter to hit, okay? But here's what's beautiful too, is that if you flip it to that Egyptian, that Sumerian, that it was a whole different time. The Nile was ready to bless with water. But still in such a way, it was like a time of bearing fruit. So I love the transition. Excuse me, I really do. That we go through in August. And I love that we have a Leo new moon coming up. I think that's going to be very powerful. We do still have, Venus in retrograde, I think until the end of August, like first week of September, end of August, something like that. And then, of course, Venus in and of herself is another beautiful thing to consider archetypally. You were thinking of Isis. You could even take it back and understand the stories of Inanna and these stories that made the basis for other myths like, Demeter and Persephone and Hades, however you want to say that. Reflection right now on the story of Inanna is very beautiful, and Aresh Kagal and these stories, of the process of going down into the underworld, ultimately of yourself first to find balance and to heal wounds and balance your divine masculine and feminine energies. But then as within, so without. We're doing that in the collective as well. So Venus is just, I feel like people don't understand the amazing, and not just, not even really Sumerian, not even really Egyptian, but even Mayan cultures, these cultures that revered and were very, very intelligent when it came to astrology, revered and followed Venus. And it's such a beautiful energy to sit with right now, which I was just thinking when I was touching the card, it's also very appropriate strength, obviously, in general, because of the strength that it took in some of these mythological stories, for, like, Inanna to go back down into the darkness, essentially, and retrieve her sister, and, figure out how to come back up, and everything that she had to face. And then, of course, with Demeter, Persephone, and Hades, the whole thing about is more like, oh, she was kidnapped and taken down into the darkness and all this, right? But it's beautiful. And so essentially we have, what are the dates? I'm trying to think of the dates. It's like the first week. So July 22nd, basically. Remember, we went right into Leo season, and then Venus hit retrograde. And at that point, you can pretty much still see her in the sky, but she's the evening star. And so imagine too, like, dude, imagine experiencing this, in a sense of the level of darkness and the lack of ambient light, and just the connection to earth and nature as it used to be, where you could, I imagine the scenery of the sky was just a whole different impact on you, as a human watching it, right? And so pretty much it is when Venus disappears from the sky, essentially. And yes, you know what? Somebody please go down the rabbit hole and connect those dots for me. Why don't you do that? I would love for you to read about Venus. Enlighten yourself with new stories about the morning star and the evening star. Please understand. Even dip down some rabbit holes and go on and get into stories about Lucifer and where those things are rooted in, and how that a lot of things really trace back. And oh, it's rich. It's rich. But anyway, Venus, the morning star, right? Because somebody else kind of stole that title, but we're not going to get into that today because it's not the point. But it's good stories to read and educate yourself about. Very very fascinating. Anyway, so, after about 2 weeks of coming into Leo season, Venus is gone, and she's bright. She's very bright if you know how to look for her. So it's like a week-long journey, right? And this is like the first week of August. She dies, essentially, right? And this is not even tapping into the fact that, a Venus cycle takes like 500 plus days to complete itself. I want to say closer to 600, like 580, something like that. So she is, I think it equals about 8 years for her to kind of rebirth a whole new cycle. And if I am not mistaken, I think that we are rebirthing a new Venus cycle right now. But anyway, so, she goes down, she dies to her form, essentially, and then I think it's between, like, around the 13th, 14th, she meets the sun. So we call this an interior conjunction because she's going between the sun and the earth, essentially. So when this happens, it's like she's being reborn. She's being, you could say, reincarnated. And it pretty much comes really close to what we call a fixed star in the Egyptians and a lot of other, again, Sumerian, Egyptian, Mayan, and who knows? I could be pleased. Feel free to add if there are other cultures. Obviously you have Nordic people who use the stars to sail their ships and all this type of stuff, right? But the richness of the storytelling of cycles of life, death, and rebirth is beautiful. It's so beautiful. And if you sit with it and think, okay, for example, I'm very deeply connected to, like, Avalon storylines, and you can even take it back there. If you take it back, don't go British with me, go farther back with me, go Welsh with me. This is you're talking about people who speak a language and have been telling stories, these death, life and rebirth stories. Not necessarily around Venus. If they did, I'm not knowledgeable about that, but I'm just saying the richness of the lineage of the storytelling from, like, the Welsh language is older than Latin. Like, and then if you even take it back to Egypt, but then take it back to Sumerian people. You're talking about people who revered, for example, the Venus as the evening star, and then the morning star, who revered the Sirius star and the sun, who were very connected to what we call these fixed stars, and essentially they have to do with the elements, north, south, east, and west. Regulus is a fixed star, which they call the heart of the lion, essentially. And I'm only bringing up that star because when Venus meets the sun, where she goes through her rebirth, right, she comes really close to that Regulus star. And so it's really like this whole shamanic process. And you're sitting here thinking, like, get with me for a minute here, okay? Thousands of years, thousands and thousands. And that, I mean, it's pre-recorded in written form, at least 2,000 plus. And then you think of the oral lineage before that, Sumerian, right? Another 1,000 that they tracked and held up the importance of this beautiful Venus cycle and how it was connected to, Inanna, and this very shamanic. Again, it's very shamanic. It's about rebirth. When the sun and Venus conjunct each other, it is about how am I becoming reborn to this next expression of, and what is Venus? Venus is the heart. I always explain to people when we do one-on-one work, Venus is so much more than just Aphrodite and sensuality and sexuality, because sensuality is your five senses, and the way that they extend out from your being and your experience of your perception of reality comes from your heart chakra, your energy stargate of the heart. Do you know what I mean? That controls the flux and flow of your whole aura, your electromagnetic field. And that energy moves through your emotional body. But it dictates how. Look, Spirit's trying to make a joke, and I ain't gonna go with it because my guides are funny. Again, we pull it back for the collective messages, okay? But Dick says, listen, no, okay, because we're not gonna dip off on a lower tangent about how Venus retrograde is gonna bring people back into your. We're not doing that. Because we have a higher purpose, okay? But we laugh sometimes, don't we? Spirit's like, raise your hand if you've got a picture from your head. I digress. We're on goddess shit over here. We are on higher vibrations and frequencies of timeline. We don't have time. We're doing whole different levels of things, okay? But we laugh. Ain't nothing wrong with having a laugh. But see, now look, let me get focused. What's so powerful is that it is really, when I'm trying to remember, damn it, when can we see her? It's like the 17th, 18th, 19th, something like that. Sometime later in the week. It may be the weekend even, and I can't remember if it has to do with where you are. No, I don't think it does. When we can actually see her rise as the morning star. If you get up before the sunrise, you will see her. And again, Mayan people, Sumerian people, Egyptian people, and please add any other cultures that I've not yet educated myself about because I love it. They would know that she was in her after she went down into her depths to die. And whether you resonate with the story of Inanna, she heard a call of darkness, and she willingly chose to take on that experience, for herself, for her sister, Aresh Kagal, and then you can dip off and read all about her sister, bless her heart. It's got this whole Medusa vibe to it, and I feel for her. Had it been my sister, probably would have dipped on down to the dark to get her too, because I felt it. Why is Cleopatra's story trying to come up in my mind? I think there's a whole message there, but we're not going to unpack that today. Something about Cleopatra and her sister. But anyway, we're going to stay focused. Or, whether you resonate with Demeter and Persephone and Hades, the whole thing about, well, there's two different viewpoints. Spirit is saying, some people, it's like, oh, she was kidnapped and lured away into the darkness. But can we get real? Wasn't there something about her dipping off and tasting some fruit? Something to the effect of she ate the fruit, and people will argue, well, he tricked her, and then she had to stay. But then some people be like, I don't know, because women are really intelligent, and even the apple, but don't get me started on that either. I'm saying which... focus. Whichever story you resonate with, the shamanic understanding of it is equally as powerful. We think about how we now want to show up to express ourselves. And again, these people would revere her when she rose up in the morning sky. And because it was like they knew what it took to, quote unquote, rise from the darkness that she had went in, to bring new awakening, to bring new awareness, to bring new levels of energetic vibration into the morning sky, right? Man, honestly, like, I really could just go on about, there's so much richness in the storytelling of the goddess energy of, like right now I'm preparing candles and oils for an event, and it's like this, the fivefold blessings and the teachings of the apple, which is very Welsh Avalon. It has to do with like Sarah Dwyn and all the goddesses, and August is just rich, you guys. And then you've got the whole, it's Lilith, because the Black Moon Lilith, yeah, she's still in Leo. Lighten shit the fuck up. There's Lilith, there's Ishtar, there's Inanna, there's Hera, there's Persephone, there's the Morrigan, there's, we could go on about this, these archetypes that teach us about evolution. And so, when we think about Venus, and we think about how we hear these things about like the golden age, and we think about all these interesting connections with Avalonian energy and the evolution of ancient Egyptian energies and all these different connection points. And it can expand out, too, as far as you can take the expansion of the metaphors of energy to help it connect with your spirit, right, and your journey. It's a beautiful way of, loving ourselves. It's a beautiful way of kind of receiving, I will always go on and talk about, you are being given genetic codes, genetic keys. You are being given an inheritance. It's constantly now with the evolution of our sun and the movement of the collective astrological energies. Everything is, there are so many tiny packages opening up in your light body right now. You just have to call them to come forth. And it's kind of like manifesting, unpacking the codes, right? But we can't do that without an open heart space, because that's kind of like the that's the hack. That's the portal. And so I think I was saying before, I teach people when we work on, I've been doing Venus readings, and I'll be offering those probably until the end of August, as Venus will end her retrograde. I need to post this up on my website, because I've been offering it in some of the private group work and just on one-on-ones, and they've been amazing. I did a round of working with Venus in your natal chart in like February too. But that's wonderful. I do need to make a post on the website, and I need to post that up on my social medias and whatnot, because it's amazing. It's amazing. We understand, this is what I was saying about Venus, is that before anything can be sensually And in Spirit is saying, in the most pure organic form that is for your best and good, your most authentic, highly calibrated, divinely articulated self, right? Before we can vibrate frequentially at a level where we can connect with this experience of our reality that we want. I think I'm saying that the way that Spirit is saying it to me is like we have to reprogram ourselves from the inside out. And a lot of that has to do with acceptance, self-love, working your shadow journey, working your healing journey, knowing yourself. Because the thing is it's like trying to scatter light and change the way that you see. Okay, Spirit is showing me it's like putting on a pair of glasses that are broken and being like, like, you know, or no, what is this? Spirit is laughing. It's talking about beer goggles. It's like putting on beer goggles and then trying to live your best life and you can't see shit straight. You can't. Because you know what? When you try to, what is Spirit saying? Experience all the blessings of the beautiful bounty, what is in this dimension and in this, where you're at on earth right now. You cannot taste a fruit. Spirit is saying that you don't feel worthy to eat, right? You can't call in a different timeline, a different experience of your life, a different perception of your reality, a different level of not just manifesting, but go bigger than manifesting is creating. Creating. You can't do that if you don't feel worthy of it. Remember kind of a lot of this stuff that we talked about in Cancer season, you know, about clearing out the waters. You know, because the water's going to flow through the heart space. Everything does. Everything will. That's unavoidable, Spirit says. All right? You can't be in your best life, rebirthing your best self, and then stepping out the door with beer goggles on and then just being like, is this my highest time? No, it's not. It's not. And the thing too is, it's like, again, when you go into a relationship, if you're going into a relationship from that place, the unhealed, unself-aware, unevolved, what you're going to do is call in a vibration that matches the wounded space that you're at. And you know where that's going to go. You know what I'm saying? We don't need to go down that avenue, okay? That's why we got DMs and emails and X, Y's, and Z's in this Venus retrograde right now. We're not answering, okay? Let's just be real. I love you. I say that because I relate. This is not no judgment over here. But it is, you know what? It's a beautiful time of metamorphosis. It is a beautiful time of, so funny. We were saying Regulus, the heart of the lion, right? I don't know, when I look at this card, you know, it's my guides and my higher self. They just always encourage us to say, you, man, if you, and I know if you're watching this video, if you could only know like what you have, when I say descended from, I guess I mean, let's rephrase that, because words are tricky and we are not descending, we're ascending. But if I could say, if you only knew your lineage, if you only understood the inheritance, and it's not outside of you, it's literally within you. It's literally within you. Every tiny molecular piece of DNA that makes up who you are, man, if you only knew the packages of what is possessed within there. You know what I mean? It's just all about reprogramming yourself, right? So I will say that I do need to put a listing on the website and in all the other places, you know, about doing readings for the remainder of Venus retrograde to get into and talk about your Venus placements in your chart, because we need to understand, listen, you know what? Why don't I feel worthy? Why don't I love myself? Why can't I forgive myself? Why don't I accept myself? Why don't I feel like I deserve X, Y, and Z, Jupiter and Taurus? I've realigned a lot of what's important in me and my wisdom and my divine abundance. I want to expand into what I value and I want my life to match that. But why don't I feel worthy? We got to go to your Venus placements for that. And it is a very humbling, especially Black Moon Lilith. In Leo, that's another set of readings that I had been doing in July. I had an offering up, but I took it down. Maybe we'll repost that too, because, those kind of do go hand in hand. I was creating these Lilith candles. I don't have any. I've already shipped them all out. On a tangent, I'm so excited to make these Sarajuan golden apple fucking candles. I'm so excited. Listen, if you get into like the whole Babylonian, Morgan, Sarajuan, the stories of King Arthur, the great bear. Anyway, man, so many good stories. I'm so excited to create with this energy. But listen, I was making these Black Moon Lilith candles, right? And in these one-on-one readings with Black Moon Lilith placements and, in the houses and the different shadow work and things like this, it's just that whole vibe of, oh, you need me to become a monster? I'll do that, because we're going to go into the cave and we're going to light this bitch up, because you need to understand that you're worthy. The inner child needs to be able to come out. And again, it's Inanna going down into the darkness to be reborn. What if she just went down and never rose again? Which there's a whole nother tangent about her being dead for 3 days and then coming. It's not 3, it's 7. But again, man, we should just do like podcasts and coffee and talk about all the things and the stories you guys need to know. Or maybe you're chuckling with me because you're like, I know, cool, I see you. It's powerful self-work, but it ain't for the weak. I'm going to tell you right now, shamanic death shadow work. Everybody's like, oh man, I'm ready to let go. I want to express the new version of my divine feminine self. Prepare me for the death so I can be reborn. Hey, it's not no game for the weak. Okay. And understanding Venus placements, especially when and you couple that with Black Moon Lilith, and you really get down into why there's a version of your inner child that was traumatized, that believes it's not worthy for X, Y, and Z. So it continues to repeat karmic loops and cyclic patterns. Or as I like to tell people, you're running programs in your wetware that are controlling your hardware. I don't know if I'm using the terminology right. Sorry. You get what I'm saying? We don't have to keep running these programs. But in order to wipe some of this shit, you know how it's like I'm going to have to shut the computer down. It's going to be down for blah, 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 blah. You get the screen of we found some bugs in the system. It's got to shut. Yeah, it's like that. And the shutting down part and the letting things go, or even the facing them. Wow, you know what? I learned a lot about in my Venus placement and why I do certain things in relationships, or why I treat my body a certain way, or why I drink in certain cycles, or why I do things that have a root of me not feeling worthy of love. And all these things are not easy placements to explore, but it's where the growth is. Do you know what I mean? It's where we find... Spirit is showing me a picture. What's our time mark? Okay, of like... Because I've really been connecting a lot with like this apple, and apple has a very personal resonance to me, and it's connected to a lot of different things. But and obviously it's harvest season, so a lot of people are like, oh, apples, okay. We already have down here in the Southeast, we already have orchards that are putting out like first waves of, so people are already getting their appling on, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, go get that donut, get you some apple cider, it's good stuff. But, excuse me, so Spirit is showing me, it's like a picture of, I put so much energy into the tree, and this tree bared wonderful fruit, but I worked and I tilled the land and I did all these things, but how there's worms in some of these apples, they fell down, I'm frustrated. and it's kind of like this whole thing of, there's beauty in the whole cycle, because the apple will still ultimately fall into the soil. It'll even have seeds in there. It's still okay. Maybe the worm ate through like half the apple and you're like, damn, I can't even get nothing off this tree really. But the seeds that were in those apples will still go down and nourish the soil. The organic material will break down. It will make for healthy growth in the next season. You know what I'm saying? It's all this beautiful cycle. But I'm just saying, like, it's not easy by any means. And I'll be the first one to tell you, if doing this work and love and light to everyone, because you know what? Love and light to everyone, because we're not all in the same place on our path. Sometimes we're still repeating karmic loops, toxic cycles. Sometimes we still haven't quite seen some of those thorns that are buried deep down, and we have to get there, But listen, it's undeniable that rebirthing the new expression of your divine self, rebirthing the next, level of kind of like calibration, because I don't want to say anything's wrong or right? But you have to go through heart healing wounds. You do. Being open to greater love, greater self-expression, a more beautiful sensual experience. And again, Venus, it's not just about sex, because before you ever connect in a sexual experience, it's the sexual energy, your sacral chakra, right, is also inside of you. And it has to do with creating. It has to do with moving energy out through your body. It's as within first and then so without, right? So to be open to greater love, to be open to a bigger experience of what I can create, how I can live my life, and actually how I was organically and divinely intended to anyway. It's like you gotta understand that there are some blockages. You have to understand that there is some heart healing, So you could call it the the conjunction. Some people say Sun meets Venus, or the Venus and Sun merge. Is gonna bring up some of these issues, but it's for the sake that we can get clarity. It's for the sake that we can get clarity. I would encourage you, if you've never looked up the 8-year cycle of Venus, is very fascinating. If you resonate with rose energy, oh man, there's so many connections to that too. Mary Magdalene, the Sophia, all this type of energy. When you think of a rose, okay, do me a favor and go Google the rose of Venus, okay? And just sit with that, because man, I just totally believe, I have sacred geometry tattooed on my body, but I really believe that just looking sometimes at sacred geometry is an activation point for your subconscious, and also for your higher energetic codes, like received from your guides and your higher self. So go check out, read about the cycles of Venus if this resonates. Check out, there's a 5-pointed star in there. There's a 5-petaled rose in there. Go and look at that. If you can even see a video, you know how they'll have those videos and animations where it shows you the sacred geometry? Grasp with me, expand your mind, and understand that when you look at that piece of sacred geometry, for example, the rose of Venus, it's an energetic resonance that you call into your being. Because the same codes and the same beauty and the same energy, the same spirit is saying, for some reason, song is in every cell of your DNA, just like it is when you think about, holy shit, that's Venus is literally making that shape when yes it is. Okay. Y'all, I really could, let me tell you this on a closing note, and I hope you all have a wonderful new moon cycle that opens in Leo. Gosh, August is just a delicious time. But I will tell you this too. I would reflect back to, June of 2020, or like summer of 2020. What were you going through? That was a Venus point that was retrograde. And then the spring of 2021, that was Venus direct. And then January of 2022, that was Venus retrograde. And then October of 2022 was direct. It's interesting to reflect on these. Oh, you know what? I think, did she start fresh in 2020? And then she is going to end and rebirth in 2028? I want to know that now. Because why did I think? Anyway, rambling to myself, you guys, as I'm looking at this chart for her orbits and her placement. Interesting. But it's a beautiful time. And I'm going to tell you, like, on a real note, you know what? I choose to dwell on what the work that I'm doing within myself. And it's very a horse with the blinders on, okay? And so I feel like when you hear readings and you watch tarot and you do all these different things, or you're getting a message from whatever, channeling, it's like, oh, so-and-so is going to come back in. Oh, so-and-so is going to... And they may. You know what I'm saying? Look, some of those are accurate, but you need to understand that who the fuck cares? Huh, right? Love and light. I hope y'all all out there doing the best of the best for yourselves. Like, I hope we can all heal. I hope we can all elevate. Because fuck, the more that we all elevate and do what we need to be doing, the more that the collective is going to benefit from that, right? Okay, but in general, it's really kind of a who cares vibe, right? But I will say this, so I don't really choose to focus on that and more than I need to, because where your attention and your energy goes, that's where you flow, right? And then you start radiating. Interesting word choice. You start putting off frequencies that sometimes it's like reverse manifestation. Oops, did I bring that in here? Because I sure did focus on it for like a week straight. So tricky. But, this is a hungry time. It is a hungry time for toxic, unhealed, lower vibrating energy that needs to, Spirit is saying, feed. So, we have a lot of planets in retrograde. I'm not going to go down the list. And yes, it happens every season. This is oh my gosh, do you see all these planets? Yes. It just means let your ancestors and your higher self and your team run the GPS, okay? And let them do what it does. And you be about your own business. Because I'm sure we got plenty on our table all alone before we focus on who's trying to knock on the back door. Okay? Y'all, I got all this stuff on my table. These are my projects. This is what I'm doing. This is what I'm doing with my body. This is how I'm trying to grow. Like, I'm busy over here on my own table. But is it a vibration? Yeah, it is. It is, because it is a very highly elevated energetic time. And, as Venus prepares to rise up and become the morning star, what's a vampire going to do? We're going to look for the best source. What is that, y'all? I'm going to hit y'all with some Twilight. Talking about, like I can drink from a deer, but, it will never satiate the same. No, it's because it doesn't. So, but you know what? It's not nothing to get all stressed out about, because we are a divine spirit. We're the universe dancing in form. I'm not worried about it, okay? But I'm not going to feed into it. Yes, we need, always call on your ancestors and your higher self and team and love and light, for protection and guidance. Always be about your personal boundaries. No, if you're asking me, okay, it was this many planets in retrograde. Is this the season with Venus in retrograde and all of this energy that we've been birthing throughout this year to drive our divine chariots? Do we need to be going to the back door to see who's knocking? No. Shouldn't be we know this though, right? So, but I choose not to focus on that because I don't need to. I wish you guys such a wonderful remainder of the week. I'm really excited because you'll be traveling this weekend and getting back to the ocean. So I really look forward to that. Please always check out, Facebook and Instagram to see, like, where are you sharing your candles? Where are you popping up? Where can I go? You can always visit my website. I love to make custom candle work. I also do custom oils, but I haven't done those in a while. I love to do custom work. Those pair well, especially with a reading. But yeah, I need to get the Venus offerings up on the website. But yeah, guys, happy remainder of Leo season. And do yourself a favor, set your clock, set your alarm, get up early and go look for that Venus star, okay? I think we may have a couple more days before we can see her brightly, but I could be wrong. Either way, go out there and think about the ways that you are ready to rebirth yourself. And again, happy almost new moon. New moon in Leo will be tomorrow. You guys, thanks so much for being present with me. I appreciate your energy and your time, and enjoy your week, okay?